All right, you hear me? I better get a 5-star rating, and you better tell the truth, and you better tell what you did to that girl. I gotta say, is the Equalizer Part 2 was the shit. Woo! Man, the Equalizer Part 2 is one of the best sequels that I've seen in a long time in Hollywood. I mean, the director Antoine Fuqua actually did a very outstanding job of this film. Like, the first Equalizer with Denzel Washington was poetic. You know, it's a guy that was once a part of the, armed forces. You know, he had martial arts training, a military background. He was disciplined. You know, he was well crafted, and he was trying to leave his past behind him. And he ended up, in the first one, he ended up having to protect the prostitute. Well, this one takes place like 10 years later in the timeline. And you could tell there's a big gap between the first film and the second film. There's a time skip. And in this film, he's on a train going to Turkey. He's dressed up as a Muslim, and he's giving this speech to this man about getting vengeance and how you atone for your crimes. In the beginning of the movie, hold on, spoiler alert, hold on, spoiler alert, hold on, spoiler alert. If you ain't seen the movie, do not watch this movie review if you ain't seen the movie. A lot of people love to watch movie reviews, and then when I tell the whole entire movie or parts of the movie, they get angry and upset. Go back and watch the movie, and then come back and watch the movie review. That's like trying to watch part 2, but you ain't seen the first movie. So this one takes place 10 years later. He's on a train, and what makes it very fun and interesting for this character is that he is trying to atone and have a new life for him. So he's not in the United States. He's in a, country basically, and he takes all these guys out, and then he goes and takes the ultimate villain out, and the girl is back with her family. And of course, the real story of the movie begins where he is a Uber driver. He gives out advice, and, and what was so good about this one is that his best friend comes to him, the lady, and talks about his wife from the first film. And when he decides to meet or return back to his past to go see his buddy who now works for the FBI, that's where the real plot of the movie actually begins to pick up. The first 45 minutes of the film, it's like you're getting connected to the character that Denzel Washington play, but it's not until he meets his best friend that the real plot thickens. Someone's taking out people, blowing houses up, someone's getting hits put out on them, and then the fact that he has to go back to what he was in the first film was beautiful. And the fact that he makes a connection with a young kid and tries to guide him in the right direction was just another classic moment of just Denzel Washington being Denzel. Ha ha, my man. Stop cussing in my house. Boy, what's wrong with you? Don't you touch my pot. This ain't your mama's pot, it's my pot. I mean, you a killer, go on, do it. I mean, just classic Denzel Washington at his absolute 110% best. I mean, this movie had so much action in it. I could have sworn I thought this was Bourne Identity, John Wick meets The Equalizer. I mean, the way he was breaking arms, legs, breaking necks, pulling eyes out, knocking people out unconscious, the scene of him fighting in the car. I mean, that was a very good written and directed action scene right there. To me, that was the best part of the movie. I mean, some people are going to argue that it's actually when he went into the storm back in Florida or wherever it was at and take out the Special Forces Task Unit like they were nothing and take out the actual villain. Now, people might say, do you picture Denzel coming back and doing an Equalizer 3? I do believe there will be a part 3 in the distant future. I do think you might have to wait 2, maybe 3, possibly 4. Hell, you could wait 5 years possibly, because when we got the second film, between a span of the first film and the second film, you ended up waiting just about 3 years for the second film. And I do believe that the director is working on a script to make a third film. And I think this might be the first time we see Denzel do 3 films that is a trilogy. Now, do I think Denzel will come back and do a third story? I think the answer is yes. But I think if you do a third Equalizer, there's got to be a compelling story. There's got to be something to tie them to the past. And what was so good about this film, it didn't just pick up where the first one left off. They found a way to make the second film different from the first film. Most sequels, they just pick up where the first one left off and they're not that good as the first film. This was actually better than the first film, but it didn't necessarily pick up where the first film left off, and it still was a great, surprising film. Now, this movie right here, I give a 10 out of 10, simply because this film had all the elements of storytelling. You know, it didn't just tell his backstory. It went into full depth on what he's doing presently compared to what he done in the first film. And they try to make this where at the end of the movie, he becomes a miracle worker, where he makes miracles happen at the end of the film. And he has a sense of pride that he returned home and that he could actually survive given the circumstances that his wife always wanted him to have a happy and normal life. And that's the sense that you see at the end of the film. This is not a guy anymore hell-bent on, I just want mayhem and destruction. At the end of the second film, you see the guy has some type of awakening that it's not as bad as his wife told him it was. He starts to believe that maybe he can do better in the world without resorting to what he did in the first film and in the second film. So that's the difference between the first film and the second film. The reason why I give this a 10 out of 10 is because it's that very good of a movie. It's that enjoyable. It makes you want to go back and watch the first Equalizer and then get ready for the DVD to come out in the year and then watch both of them right after another. So I give Equalizer 2 10 out of 10. And I want to say thank you to Denzel Washington because he didn't have to do a second film. He didn't have to do a sequel to a movie franchise. You know, 10 years ago, people wanted him to do a sequel to Training Day, and he turned down the idea or said no to the idea of a Training Day sequel. But to this, he's actually given the fans what they've been longing for, him doing a sequel. So thank you, Denzel Washington. I appreciate it. Thank you.